Europe finally stood its ground. Heavy armor, thousands of knights, full battle formations. This time they believed the Mongols would break. They didn't. This is real medieval warfare. If you want history without filters, subscribe now. By the time Europe decided to fight back, it believed in one thing above all else: numbers. More men, more armor, more banners on the field. European commanders thought the Mongols had gone too far, too deep, too isolated from their supply lines and their homelands. They thought the invaders were ripe for the picking, a force that had overextended itself and was now trapped. They were wrong. On every single count, the European plan was, on the surface, brilliant in its simplicity: force the Mongols into an open battle, pin them down, and then unleash the ultimate weapon of the medieval age, the heavy cavalry charge. This plan had worked for centuries. It was the bedrock of European military doctrine. Knights, clad head to toe in steel plate, mounted on massive war horses, charging at full speed, had broken armies from the fields of France to the hills of the Holy Land. What no one in the European High Command understood was this: the Mongols wanted exactly that. They were not trying to avoid a battle, they were trying to dictate its terms. Imagine the scene. The battlefield is set. On one side, the European forces gather in massive, dense formations. You have the heavy cavalry right in the center, a glittering wall of steel and horseflesh, the pride of Christendom. Behind them, holding the rear, are the vast blocks of infantry, pikemen and spearmen ready to hold the line. Archers are positioned behind, ready to rain down arrows on the enemy. It's a textbook formation, powerful, imposing, and confident. Across the field stood the Mongols. To European eyes, they looked weak, almost pathetic. There were fewer of them. Their armor was light, mostly leather and lamella. Their horses were small, wiry ponies compared to the great destriers of the knights. And they were spread out in loose, wide formations, not a solid wall of men. It looked like an easy victory. It looked like a slaughter waiting to happen. The signal was given. The horns blew. The first charge begins. It's a sight that would have struck terror into any other army. Thousands of European knights lower their lances and charge. The ground itself shakes under the weight of thousands of hooves. The sound is a deafening thunder. Banners surge forward. The line of steel and fury crashes towards the Mongol lines. And then the Mongols retreat. They break formation and fall back. Exactly as the European commanders had planned. You can almost picture the smiles on their faces. The trap was sprung. But the retreat continues. And it continues. The Mongol horsemen are fast, nimble. They stay just out of reach of the charging knights. The European charge, this unstoppable force, starts to lose its momentum. What was a tight, disciplined formation is now stretched thin across the field. The heavy war horses are beginning to tire, blowing hard, their initial burst of speed now gone. The knights are frustrated, their lances useless against an enemy that won't stand and fight. The charge has broken. And just as the knights slow, exhausted and disordered, the Mongols turn. Suddenly, the trap snaps shut. From seemingly nowhere, Mongol units appear on both sides of the stretched-out European line. The left flank is attacked by swarms of mounted archers. The right flank is hit moments later. The air fills with the whistle of arrows, but these are not the arrows European armies were used to. They are not aimed at the knights' heavy plate armor, which was almost impenetrable. No, the Mongols aimed for the horses. It was a brutally effective tactic. A knight without his horse is just a man encased in 60 pounds of steel, slow and vulnerable. Arrows rain down on the unarmored parts of the war horses. They scream and fall, trapping their riders underneath a weight they could not possibly escape. Knights who were the pinnacle of warfare moments ago are now pinned to the ground, helpless. The European infantry, the backbone of the army, never even reaches the main fight. They are already being surrounded by other Mongol detachments, cut off from the cavalry they were meant to support. The entire European battle plan has disintegrated in a matter of minutes. In the center, what remains of the European forces fights desperately. This is where the battle becomes a brutal close-quarters slugfest. Axes, swords, shields. For a brief, desperate moment, it looks like the superior armor and strength of the European soldiers might just hold. It looks like an even fight. But the Mongols had one more card to play: their reserves. While the European forces were now exhausted, their best men already fallen or bogged down, the Mongol reserves arrived. Fresh, untouched by the fighting, moving at full speed, they slam into the beleaguered European center like a tidal wave. The line that had been bending now shatters completely, the center collapses. The numbers didn't save them. European chronicles from the time speak clearly, though with a sense of disbelief and horror. They talk of armies of 30,000 European soldiers engaging the enemy. They describe how entire formations were destroyed, wiped out to the last man. Commanders, dukes, and princes were killed or captured on the field. The Mongols, by contrast, lost comparatively few men. And after the battle, they just kept moving, ready to strike the next target. This was not a battle. This was a lesson in a new kind of warfare, a lesson written in blood. For those who tried to flee, the final, terrifying stage of the Mongol strategy began: the encirclement. As broken European units attempted to retreat, they found no exit. The Mongols, with their superior mobility, had already closed the circle. This was their signature tactic, the nurge, a hunting technique scaled up for war. There was no escape. There was no mercy. There was no negotiation. By nightfall, the once boisterous battlefield was silent, covered by the bodies of Europe's finest warriors. The aftermath was one of pure terror. Survivors, if there were any, fled and spread tales of an unstoppable, almost demonic force. The psychological impact was immense. Fortified castles and cities that would have held out for months against a traditional European siege opened their gates before Mongol scouts even arrived on the horizon. Kings and emperors, who had believed their knights were invincible, realized far too late that heavy armor and brute force meant nothing against speed, strategy, and perfect coordination. Europe had fought back with all its might, and Europe had lost, catastrophically. But then something strange happened. The Mongols did not push forward immediately to conquer the rest of Europe. Their seemingly unstoppable armies paused. They halted their advance. Europe was wounded, bleeding, and on the brink of collapse, but it was not finished. And in the next episode, we ask the most important question of all. Why did the Mongols stop? Episode 3 completes this incredible story. Subscribe to the channel, and make sure you stay to the end to find out. Thanks for watching.